We've come to what is statistically the fastest park run in the UK, and I don't believe it for 1 second.
Stephen Cousins, 18 minutes later.
I broke my parkrun PB again.
Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. Now I thought it was about time I did an update to what are the UK's fastest and slowest parkruns using the data that Parkrun kindly let us have for use on Run Britain rankings and Power of 10. This time I've come up with a slightly different algorithm because, as you can see, some of my fellow YouTubers do rather doubt my ability to work out what are the fastest ones. Now that one particular one, Victoria Dock, actually has changed course slightly and isn't now the fastest one anymore. So spoiler alert to what is a new fastest parkrun, but that does have a bit of controversy around it. It also seems that the data proves quite popular for YouTube videos because we've got Harry Morgan here at Woolacombe Dunes.
Hello, Harry here, and I've come all the way to northwest Devon in the UK to check out a particular parkrun that's got a reputation for being hard, really hard.
And we've also got Ben Parks and Sarah Place going to opposite ends of the spectrum.
They're both going to be heading to a parkrun and racing each other. With a twist, where Sarah's going, and I'm going to be heading to the hardest parkrun.
The previous year's fastest and slowest, which were Victoria Dock and Great Yarmouth North Beach. Now, we've already said that Victoria Dock has lost its perch, but will Great Yarmouth still be the slowest? Okay, so as I mentioned, I've come up with a slightly different algorithm. So if anyone's interested in that, I'll put a bit more detail on how exactly I work these things out a bit later on in the video. But first of all, I'll do a countdown of the 5 fastest ones from 5 down to 1, and the 5 slowest ones from 5 down to 1. And also a bit of commentary on all the other ones in the middle, because it's not just working out what are the top 5, it's trying to rank the entire list. There's 760 current UK parkruns I've worked out. That's excluding all the prison ones. So in 5th place is MUSA Cookstown, where that stands for Mid-Ulster Sports Arena, which just edges Belfast Victoria for being the fastest one in Northern Ireland. This one's been going actually for 10 years. It's a 3-lap course, looks fairly flat with fairly wide tarmac paths. It's got a best male time of 14:52 and best female time of 16:46. 4th place is a long-established one in Hull, which has been going since 2010. And you'll see there's rather a theme with these ones. This is 2 laps more or less around a park, around a lake. It's called East Park, and the fastest times here are 14:46 by the men and 16:36 by the women. As you can see, on a sunny day, looks rather nice, inviting course. I'll have to link to all the credits to these videos. Much appreciated to fellow YouTubers for going out and filming these things. Okay, in 3rd place is Poole in Dorset, another long established one, another tarmac looped course. This one has been going since 2011. I can vouch for its fastest potential because I did my last sub-18 parkrun in at 17:59 on Christmas Day in 2019. Hope to see if I can get somewhere near that again. But it also holds the UK's fastest time by a woman, by Melissa Courtney, at 15:31, and the men's course record is 14:32. They seem to slightly change the course since 2019. It's now 2 laps round the cricket pitch and 1 big lap round the boating lake, because I think it used to be 2 laps round the boating lake. But fundamentally, the course change from 2019 to now hasn't really affected the basic nature of the course. It's still basically the same terrain that you're going over in a slightly different way. So certainly what I can recommend personally if you want a fast one down on the south coast. Now, second fastest is perhaps a bit of a surprise, Bromley in London, just on the Kent side of London. Now, this is one that's been going since 2009, and I did actually do this in 2010, and when I look back, I actually ran a lot faster than I thought I did. And at the time, I was thinking, why is it so fast? Well, I think what they do in the winter, they have a 3-lap all-tarmac course, and in the summer, it's mainly tarmac with a bit of sort of grass. So I think all year round it has good speed potential, and you can see here it's got quite wide paths, looks quite a good surface, and plenty of speed potential. So it's not really any surprise to me that it is actually coming out pretty fast. The course records are 14:36 for the men and 16:10 for the women, so certainly up there with all these fast park runs, which generally do have 14-minute male times and 15 or 16 female times. So the UK's new fastest parkrun is Pegwell Bay in Kent. Now this is a 2-lap and a bit course that is now on the tarmac for about the first kilometre. I think it used to be a sort of a trail path, and then it sort of winds down by the water. It looks rather picturesque one. Now I think there's a bit of controversy over this one, because I think when it started it was actually a bit longer, i.e. it was actually a full 5k. So when I talk about the fastest parkruns, obviously they're all meant to be 5k, but they're not necessarily all 5k. So I've done quite a lot of research on this one and spoken to quite a lot of people, and it seems I think they had some sort of problem with the actual original start, and then to make it easier, they've moved it so basically the start and finish are virtually at the same place, and as a result I think the course itself is a bit short. So if you do your best time here, there's might be a slight doubt, is it really a 5k? Because it's coming out so much faster by my new algorithm than all the other ones. And I've tried various different sort of permutations of the algorithm just to see whether there was any sort of statistical effects, and whichever way I do it, it seems to coming out the fastest park run. So I haven't seen many YouTubers down at this one yet, so maybe get yourself down there and report back on how fast it is, and dare I say it, how long it actually is. So now we come on to the 5 slowest ones, and you'll be interested to know that there's only one new entry from last time, and the order is actually pretty much the same. So in fact the 5th slowest park run is still Mount Edgcumbe in Cornwall. Now this one actually looks like it sort of starts off fairly nicely. There's some nice sort of fairly firm tarmac pass, but you can soon see the gradients seem to change quite rapidly, and people seem to be going down hills very quickly, and then all of a sudden there's a guy that sort of stopped there, and then you have this left turn here when you suddenly sort of shoot up this grass going to look like it's almost like vertical. It's the vegan runner has done a very nice video montage of this one, so great sort of views there. And I'm sure in the summer this will be a very nice one, but if it's like muddy and wet, imagine running up that grass when it's like muddy and wet. Now the 4th slowest one is a fairly new one, Durlston Country Park in Swanage in Dorset. Now this seems to go straight downhill at the start and has various loops which all look very, very hilly, and although the surface doesn't look too bad and it looks extremely picturesque, this looks like a very, very tough one. And you've got Danny Norman from With Me Now to thank for this footage, and you can see here that people are struggling. Danny's look like he's taking a breather. But yeah, some amazing views. So if you fancy a really picturesque one, albeit a rather slow one, then take yourself off to near Swanage for this one. Now 3rd slowest is Woolacombe Dunes in Devon. Now this one has been the very slowest, so it's actually getting faster in inverted commas. And here we've got the vegan runner and now Harry Morgan trying to go up the Dune of Doom, the infamous climb here of the sand dunes off the beach. So this is a course that is basically a lot of it on sand, and this bit here looks absolutely torturous. I think I must get myself down to this one day. I wonder if you'd be best wearing spikes on this course, because I don't think sort of trail shoes or road shoes are going to be much good. So yeah, I think Harry actually managed to come first finisher in this one, but he seems to be milking the effort on this one. But yeah, look at that course. It's an amazing backdrop, isn't it? So it might take you a while longer than normal, but it's like some of the other slowest ones, you get some amazing views, and certainly a bit of a bucket list park run to do this one. Now the 2nd slowest is Whinlatter Forest in Cumbria, and we've got Triathlon Dan here, another fellow YouTuber to thank for this footage. He's having a go. It starts off fairly friendly by the looks of it, nice little downhill start, but the big problem with this one, it then spends the rest of the time going up and actually finishes a lot higher up than it starts. So one of the rare courses where I think it sort of finishes somewhat different place to where it starts. So I think basically the basic problem with this course is the fact that it is just basically a big climb upwards, and you can see here from behind, looking behind Dan here, that how steep it is, and looking forwards as well. The surface doesn't look too bad, does it? But so yeah, but if you want a nice time trial 5k, largely all uphill, this is the place to go. And I think if you can get anywhere near a sub 20 on this one, then you're doing extremely well.
This is the hardest 5k I've ever known.
Okay, I'm pleased to say for Ben Parks here that it still holds true. This is still the slowest UK park run, Great Yarmouth North Beach. It does rather prove that a park run isn't necessarily slow if it's flat, because this is about as flat as it can be on the beach, but sand is probably the hardest surface to run on, and if you add a totally exposed sort of bit of sand and wind and stuff like that, it makes it extremely, extremely tough. Another bucket list one to do, and I wonder who will be the first person to break 20 minutes. I think it's the only open park run now with a course record that isn't actually under 20 minutes. For the men, that is, of course. The women, I think course record is 21 minutes, but considering nearly all the women's park runs are sub 21 as well, it's quite amazing. So, do you agree with the top 5s? Have you been to any of these fastest or slowest ones? Are you now hoping to? Have a peruse through the list after this and let me know your local ones or the ones you do, see if you roughly agree. I think this list is definitely looking a bit more robust. I think there's obviously going to be a few ones that may stand out you don't agree with. So I hope you found this interesting. Like and subscribe on that, and see you on the next one then. Bye! So if we just perused down the overall spreadsheet, I've highlighted a few in red here, which are worthy of a quick note. So Worthing is a very quick one that is actually where Stephen Cousins lives, and he always thought that Worthing is faster than the Victoria Dock. I did a bit of clever editing there to make out that it was faster than it was, but he did actually run faster at Worthing than he did at Victoria Dock, which now comes in at 44th place, so perhaps a bit more realistic. Millom there is an interesting one in 30th. That used to be one of the very slowest ones, and helped out with some BBC feature where they actually went down there to run it. It was basically a paddy field in the winter, and they've now built basically an athletics track sprint and then carried it round as a sort of perimeter track. So basically now Millom is like running around a glorified running track for 5 laps, so it's suddenly got from the slowest one to one of the fastest ones. Dulwich is another very fast one in London that's traditionally used for people to go for a fast time. Indeed, the male course record there is the second fastest overall time in the UK by Alex Yee, who was the Olympic champion in the triathlon. Stories Field there came out 18th place. That was second last year, but it was quite new, so I think with the more data it's perhaps sitting in a slightly better place for it, but it's still very, very quick. Cardiff is another very quick one that's been going a long time. The 15:49 course record, which is jointly held actually, is the third fastest times ever by a UK female. Worcester Pitchcroft is one that did once hold the crown of the UK's fastest, and I think at the time it was slightly short, so they've now made it a proper 5K, and it's now sitting perhaps in a better place. Yarborough Leisure Centre is a fairly new one, so it may actually be further down than it perhaps could be, but it's looking quite fast, so watch out for that one if you're in that area. Eden Project is one that has been rather high, and I think perhaps now is a bit more correct under this new algorithm. I did that one once. I know it was quite fast with a very fast downhill mile. It then did have quite a lot of ups and downs, so I think that's about right now. Bushy Park there in 115. It's perhaps a bit lower than you might expect, but don't forget it's not an all tarmac course. Quite a lot of grass in that one. So yeah, it's maybe not the very fastest, and the stats demonstrate that, although Andy Baddeley with I think 13:48 still holds the worldwide parkrun record, so that's now stood for 11 years. So I'm interested to see if someone would have a go at that. It does look rather vulnerable, I would say now. Another one that used to be the fastest one year, Berkeley Green, and I think that was a bit of a statistical quirk, and they also then changed the course to make it a lot slower. Okay, so how has this all worked out? Well, I've actually covered this in previous videos, but I thought I'd include this here for completion. So we have this concept of the SSS, Standard Scratch Score, which is a concept borrowed from golf, and basically it's a way of measuring the relative difficulty of each park run. So normally for the Run Britain rankings, we compute the SSS for each individual race or park run instance, so i.e. Bushy number 789, i.e. the actual Saturday runs each time. However, for this one, I've actually done it a slightly different way. I've actually computed a ranking list over a certain period. I've used the post-lockdown period from mid-2021 till now. So basically it's all the parkrun data since we started up again, and I've worked out the SSS based on that ranking list for each parkrun's best times over that period. So previously I used to compute it by working out the average or median of the SSS scores over a certain period for say for Bushy Park, so it'd be all the weekly ones, then an average of that. But I found that was a bit susceptible to sort of small scale errors, so I felt this new way is making a bit more robust calculations and have actually more sort of good data. So how is the SSS actually computed? Well, each runner's time is computed to a point score on a golf style handicap, and it's largely based on the WAVA age graded tables. They're also obviously used in parkrun. What we then do is compare that score in that parkrun to your best score in some other parkrun, i.e. a different event. If we were looking at Bushy, for instance, I would be looking at your parkrun times at every other parkrun or in any other race. So that difference is what we call the MySS. So for instance, if I ran 20 minutes at a parkrun, but my best 5k time elsewhere was 19 minutes, then that MySS would be 2.1, because those two ones have a 9.7 points and 7.6 points. So we do that computation for every single runner, and we have various filtering to get rid of people that didn't appear to be trying, and well, maybe it seemed to have just too much of an improvement, and then that median of those MySS scores is the SSS for that particular park run. Now an SSS of 0 means it's largely ideal conditions. Everybody could do a PB through to 10.0 where it would be very tough indeed. And interestingly, Pegwell Bay has a negative SSS, which does usually a bit of a red flag that the course is a bit short. Any SSS of 1 or under is typically a pretty fast one, and the reason for that is that 1 SS points roughly equates to 30 seconds over 5k. It's not completely linear because what it's called is mildly progressive. So when you're running faster, that 1.0 SS range is lower, and as you get slower, then it actually expands out.